do well with pictures like this. Surprisingly, they make me sick to my stomach. This photo was taken by Marissa Hill as she sat in her bed helpless as a stranger left her hallway bathroom. On the backstory I could find from this photo, she had heard a noise coming from the hallway bathroom and thought it was her husband, who was actually outside at the time, but when an unknown person came out of that bathroom, she was mid-picture and realized it was not him pranking her. An unknown elderly man came out of her bathroom and she sat there completely paralyzed with fear. According to her, she sat there in complete silence because he did not seem to notice her, and then he had just exited the house, and by the time she got up and got her husband called 911, this person was gone. They had no idea who he was, how he got in, or what he wanted.
Yo, what's up? Here's some scary facts about our world that you probably didn't want to know. Part 44. There is a type of shark species known as the Greenland shark that can live upwards of 200 years. One, because it is adapted to the cold water in the Arctic Ocean, and the second reason is because it'll eat anything that falls in the water. That means polar bears, penguins, and anything up above. If you were to travel to space in a spaceship, traveling the speed of light, let's say at age 15, when you came back 5 years later, you would be 20, but all of your friends, well, they'd be 65. There is a condition known as the Cotard syndrome, otherwise known as the walking corpse syndrome, in which people suffer from believing that they have never existed and that they have been dead this whole time. If you go to a Catholic priest and tell him that you murdered somebody, they can't say a word because of Catholic law, and they will keep your secret. Please don't get any ideas.
I went to Reddit to find the most unexplained supernatural or paranormal events that people had ever gone through. And this is what I found. I was annoyed with my daughter because she hadn't cleaned up her room in weeks, so when I walked by her room and saw her standing there, I assumed she was doing what I said. A few minutes later, she walked out of the shower in the bathroom with a towel wrapped around her and asked why I was looking at her strangely. When I asked her who was in her room, she looked scared too. I never figured out who was in there, but we didn't clean up the room either. 6 out of 10. Was spending the night at a friend's house as a kid around 12 or 13. Parents weren't home, so we decided to go out, do some ding-dong ditching, get into some young angsty debauchery. We get home and it's around 1 or 2 in the morning. Cue a ringing of the doorbell. Naturally, we think it's the cops or some pissed off neighbor. My friend had a small window that looked out onto the front porch and you couldn't really see into it from outside. So we took a peek at who was calling at such a late hour. Standing at the door was an old woman in a dress and a young boy in a weird newsy outfit. Both were dressed extremely out of period as it was the 90s, and my friend had never seen them either in the neighborhood before. We ducked because we're a bit freaked, look again less than 10 seconds later and they're both gone. Nobody on the street walking away, no cars driving away, they were just gone without a trace. We did not sleep well. That's a good one. That was a good one. 7.8 out of 10. That one was kind of freaky, and they were all kind of freaky, but it makes sense because
these are the most evil people on Earth, part 1. Number 1 on our list, David Berkowitz. David Berkowitz, otherwise known as the Son of Sam, was a serial killer who terrorized the area of New York City from about July of 1976 to July of 1977. He started his killing spree in 1975 when he stabbed 2 women with a hunting knife, but 2 years later, after his neighbor's dog supposedly told him to go out and start killing people, he grabbed a .44 caliber bulldog revolver and shot 6 people dead and injured 7. After these killings, Berkowitz continued to write very taunting letters to the press and the police, promising that until they caught him, he was going to continue to kill more people. But finally, on August 10, 1977, police would move on to search Berkowitz's car, where they would find a duffel bag full of ammunition, a map of his crime scenes, a rifle, and an unsent letter from the Son of Sam to the police. And when Berkowitz was arrested, he told the police, "Well, you got me. What took you so long?"
There is a Polish girl who thinks that she might be the lost child Madeleine McCann. I almost thought that this was like an imposter thing. I wouldn't believe it until I looked at the girl's eyes. Madeleine McCann went missing when she was still a toddler, right? Which kind of tracks with this girl because she wasn't even thinking about this until her grandmother said something to her that got her researching. Ended up reading about the McCann story, and she realized that a lot of her early childhood was very fuzzy, and she's asked her parents, can you provide like pictures of you when you were pregnant with me? which they refused to. She also had a childhood teacher who claimed that she did not start school around this age, which also sort of tracks with the timeline of the disappearance. The girls do have similar facial features, but specifically, I am going to call attention to the mark on her iris. There's this distinct mark that was found on Madeleine's eye that has always been kind of the definitive factor of whether or not this person is legit, and although hers is faded, which she acknowledges, she said she's always had it.
These are some extremely unsettling facts, and I found all of these on Reddit. Now, chances are, even if you've never been to Disneyland, you probably know what it is. It's quite possibly the most famous amusement park on Earth right now, but what if I told you it has a very dark past? You see, Disneyland is known for several conspiracy theories, but there's one that is confirmed. At Disneyland, they have a ride called Pirates of the Caribbean, and on this ride, there's skeletons scattered throughout the ride. Now, when this ride was first created, they used skeletons that looked really fake, and Mr. Mickey Mouse didn't like that. So they reached out to UCLA and ended up replacing the fake skeletons they had on the ride with real skeletons. So for a while, if you were to go on this ride, you'd be greeted by real cured skeletons. After a while, they realized how this could be wrong, and they replaced them with fake ones again and gave the real ones a proper burial. Now, chances are, if you know an old person, you know someone that wears dentures. But back in the 1800s, dentures were done very differently. In the 1800s, dentures were created by using the teeth of real dead people. And it was like this for a while until science was able to make some advancements and put fake teeth into the dentures. When you die, your body will start to release several gases as it decomposes, causing your stomach to swell up like a balloon. And if not treated properly, your body will continue to swell until you pop. That one always it makes me feel disgusting on the inside, but I guess that's why.
Yo, what's up? Here's some scary facts about our world that you probably didn't want to know, part 43. One of the reasons refrigerators are magnetic is because back during the early 1900s, children used to get stuck inside of these when they were playing hide and go seek, and they would actually suffocate and die. There's actually a condition known as arachnodactyly, and it makes your fingers and your toes appear abnormally long in comparison to your palm and to your foot. It can appear at birth or later on during life, so don't think you're safe just yet. There's a chance that you could experience internal bleeding, but you may not even know it's going on until it's too late. Oh yeah, I didn't know if you knew this or not, but actually when you die, they drain your body of all the blood. They put a tube through your jugular, it goes down a table, and then it empties out into like a sink or a toilet. Yeah, and then it's just replaced with formaldehyde.
Now you knew I was gonna make a video on this. This footage could be video evidence that has captured the Serbian dancing lady. It's not entirely clear where the legend actually originated from, but there have long been tales of a woman who shows up dancing in the middle of the night in the street very, very soon before somebody in that town goes missing or something goes horribly wrong. But so many people have claimed to see this woman in the past. There have actually been police inquiries on this, none of which have ever really led anywhere. It's never even been clear from the lore if this was a story of legend or if it's a real woman. But this video has raised a lot of eyebrows.
Serial killer facts that'll haunt your nightmares. Part 5. When Peter Curtin was just 10 years old, he had his first sexual experience with a goat, and the years that followed, he would regularly do it with other farm animals. At age 13, he killed his first person and would murder over 60 more. In the 1910s, Bela Kiss killed 69 people and tried to pickle them. And when police found their bodies in barrels, they had puncture marks on their neck and they had been drained of all their blood. Pedro Rodriguez Filho killed 71 people both in and out of prison. He was released a few years ago and now has a YouTube channel where he makes fishing videos. Cannibal killer Albert Fish enjoyed shoving sewing needles in his pelvic area while he touched himself. And before his execution in 1936, a medical examiner found over 30 needles in his pelvis. Andrei Chikatilo, better known as the Rostov Ripper, was originally captured but had been released due to a 1 in a million genetic condition that caused the blood type in a sample to be different from the blood type in his semen.
In the past couple of days, we've all been seeing the news talking about unidentified objects, the size of a small car, flying in Canadian and American airspaces that were shot down by the American military. Many government representatives spoke up saying the details of these cylindrical objects are still unknown. Now, many people are saying that these are interdimensional beings, including the biggest media corporations. For the first time ever, they may not hide these events from us, but I am a Muslim, and many of you that are watching are probably Muslims as well, and many of you are not Muslim. What sources does Islam have that may prove these beings are real? This information is for all, Muslims and non-Muslims, because regardless, this information came out of a sacred text that existed 1,400 years ago. Listen to this verse. God has created the heavens and the earths. وَبَثَّ فِيهِمَا مِن دَابَّةٍ. He has scattered creatures throughout the heavens and the earths. So all these planets, in all these galaxies, have breathing creatures and beings living in them. Then the verse says, وَهُوَ عَلَى جَمْعِهِمْ إِذَا يَشَاءُ قَدِيرٌ. Meaning, if he wants to, speaking of God, he can cause these species to meet or to come together. This indicates that us and the other beings are not together. Another verse says, وَيَخْلُقُ مَا لَا تَعْلَمُونَ. God created things that you will never know about. And the last verse, which is the strongest verse in my opinion, God says in Surah Isra, we have honored the children of Adam, and we have allowed them the opportunity to ride in the oceans and on the animals. We've given them things that other creatures have not been given. Then he says, and we have blessed them over many other creations that we have created. Many other creations, not all. And the creations that we know, we are the highest. We are higher than the jinns and the animals and the angels. We are at the top. The angels bowed down to Adam, remember? But there are other creations that have been privileged more than us. But who are they?